My name is Nathan Daniel Hayes, but everyone calls me Nate. I'm 27 years old, living in Missoula, Montana, a quiet town nestled beside the Clark Fork River, where the air carries the scent of pine and the mountains loom like silent guardians. Missoula isn't as grand as Bozeman or as rugged as Billings, but it has its own soul: narrow streets lined with weathered brick buildings, old cottonwood trees standing tall, and a crisp autumn breeze that never quite fades. I work as an archivist at the local university library, sorting through dusty books, faded manuscripts, and handwritten letters from decades past. It's not a high-paying job, nor is it glamorous, but I love it. The pages of old books whisper stories no one remembers, and history, especially the World War II era, unfolds before me like a puzzle waiting to be solved. To my family, though, I'm a disappointment. Nate, you're still scraping by on that librarian salary? My cousin Ryan sneers at family gatherings, his smirk sharp as a blade. To them, I'm the odd one out, the only Hayes who didn't chase wealth or status. My father, Richard Hayes, runs a thriving real estate firm expanding across Montana. My uncle Paul, his younger brother, is his loyal partner, always in tailored suits with a polished grin. They live in a world of high-stakes deals, luxury SUVs, and exclusive galas. Me, I'm the 27-year-old in a faded jacket, driving a beat-up sedan, more interested in history than hedge funds. Our family gatherings are loud, ostentatious affairs held in sleek venues with crystal chandeliers and expensive whiskey. My cousins, Ryan, Lauren, and Megan, brag about their ski trips to Aspen, custom watches, or new condos in downtown Missoula. I'm the quiet one in the corner, refilling drinks, clearing plates, or listening to their chatter without anyone asking me a thing. Nate, what do you even do in that library? Stack books, Lauren once quipped, sparking laughter around the table. I smiled, nodded, and kept clearing dishes. I'm used to being sidelined, but there's one place where I've always felt at home. My grandparents' old cabin near the Bitterroot Valley. My grandfather, Henry Joseph Hayes, or Grandpa Joe, is a stooped man with snow-white hair and hands gnarled by time, always clutching a worn book or a mug of black tea, dressed in a frayed sweater and a faded cap. His cabin smells of pine and old memories. My grandmother, Clara, is the warmest person I know, her smile gentle, her eyes kind, always knitting by the fire or brewing chamomile tea. Together, they're like a snapshot from a simpler time, quiet yet vibrant. My family barely acknowledges them. To them, Grandpa Joe is a relic, a poor old man stuck in a rundown cabin with a few acres of worthless land. At a family party, my father once said, "The old man's got nothing to leave behind but stories and a shack." Uncle Paul smirked, adding, "That land could be worth millions if sold." My heart clenched at their words. Grandpa never responded, just stared out the window, as if living in a world they couldn't touch. To me, though, he's everything. Every weekend, I drive my creaky sedan to their cabin with a bag of pastries or medicine, sitting by the fire as Grandpa spins tales of World War II. Soldiers, spies, and secrets buried in history's shadows. His voice is low, deliberate, each word sinking into my bones. He loves the war's covert operations, and I bring him library books on OSS missions, codebreakers, and espionage. "Nate, did you know?" he said once, his eyes alight. "The world's full of secrets. Some people change history, and no one ever knows." Grandma Clara would smile nearby, saying, "Joe, don't fill his head with spy nonsense." But her eyes sparkled. She loved his stories as much as I did. Those afternoons in the cabin, with the fire crackling and the faint scent of baked bread, made me feel whole. I didn't need wealth or my family's approval, just Grandpa's health, Clara's smile, and their stories on cold Montana evenings. Not everyone in my family dismisses me. My mother, Ellen, never mocks me. She's a quiet woman with graying blonde hair always in a braid, her eyes carrying a quiet sadness. In the Hayes family, she's a shadow, overshadowed by my father and uncle. She never challenges them or defends me publicly, but when we're alone, she'll hold my hand and say, "Nate, you don't need to be like them. Be you." Her words are a shield, protecting me from a world she can't escape. Life continued this way until one chilly autumn evening when everything shifted. I visited the cabin as usual, finding Grandpa by the fire, book in hand, but his eyes were different, searching, heavy with something unspoken. Clara had gone to bed early, leaving us alone with the fire's glow. "Nate," he said, his voice low and grave, "if there was a secret that could change how you see this family, would you want to know?" I laughed, trying to lighten the mood. "Grandpa, another spy story?" But he didn't smile. His eyes, lit by the fire, pierced through me. "I'm serious, Nate. I've kept things hidden my whole life. But the time for you to know might be near." A chill ran through me, not from the cold but from his tone. I wanted to ask more, but he shook his head, placing a hand on my shoulder. "You're the only one I trust," he said. That night, driving home through Missoula's quiet streets, his words haunted me. A secret that could change everything? I told myself he was just old, maybe confused, but deep down, I knew Grandpa Joe never spoke without purpose. His gaze wasn't that of a frail man. It was the look of someone preparing to pass on something monumental. Autumn faded fast, golden leaves blanketing the road to the cabin. But with the season, Grandpa's health declined. One day, I found him by the fire, breathing heavily, his face pale. Clara, her hands trembling, brewed tea, her voice laced with worry but steady. "He's been coughing for days," she said. "The doctor says it's bronchitis, but he won't go to the hospital. He wants to stay here." Grandpa, once tall and strong, looked frail in his loose sweater, his eyes tired but still sharp. I knelt beside him, taking his hand. "Grandpa, you need a doctor. I'll drive you." He shook his head, smiling faintly. "Nate, I'm old. I don't need hospitals. I need this cabin, Clara, and you." His grip was weak but warm. I wanted to argue, but his eyes silenced me. Not defeat, but acceptance. From then on, I visited more, taking days off work to stay overnight, bringing medicine, cooking soup, helping Clara clean. Grandpa's stories shifted from spies to his youth, vague tales of travels he never detailed. "Nate, ever think someone could live two lives?" he asked one night, the fire casting shadows across his face. "Two lives?" I echoed. He nodded, staring into the flames. "One the world sees, another only you know. Some secrets stay buried because revealing them could ruin everything." His words sent a shiver through me. Clara walked in with cookies, and he switched to lighter talk, but his words lingered like a riddle. My family remained indifferent. Richard was busy with deals, flying to Denver or Seattle. Paul was in the news, boasting about a new land acquisition. My cousins were lost in their world of parties and luxury. At Thanksgiving, none visited the cabin. Richard called, asking, "Is your grandpa okay?" before cutting off for a meeting. Paul sent a fancy gift basket, no note. Only Ellen and I went, bringing turkey and Clara's favorite lemon bars. We ate at the cabin's worn table, Grandpa coughing but smiling, reminiscing about childhood Thanksgivings when Richard and Paul fought over pie. Ellen's smile was sad. She felt their loneliness but stayed silent, trapped in the Hayes family's shadow. Grandpa's bronchitis worsened, the doctor warning he might not survive the winter. I stayed over more, sleeping on the couch, watching Clara care for him with unwavering love, her fear hidden behind steady hands. One night, as his coughs kept him awake, I sat by his bed, holding his hand. Moonlight streamed through the window, illuminating his frail face. "Nate," he whispered, "don't trust the surface. When I'm gone, go to that place." "What place?" I asked, my heart racing. He squeezed my hand. "You'll know. You're the only one I trust. Don't let them blind you." I wanted to press, but Clara rushed in with water, her eyes pleading not to push him. His words burned, a flame I couldn't extinguish. Cleaning one day, I found a locked wooden box in the corner, its surface scratched. "What's this, Clara?" I asked. She smiled faintly. "Your grandpa's. He said to leave it." I didn't push, but the box haunted me. Grandpa's final days were quiet. He spoke less, but his hand in mine felt like he was passing strength. Clara never left his side, her exhaustion growing. My family stayed absent. Richard called once, distracted. Then, one night, Grandpa looked at me, his voice barely audible. "Nate, I'm proud of you." His last words. The next morning he passed, his hand cold in mine. Clara stroked his hair, tearless but broken. "He loved you most," she said. Amid grief, his words echoed, "Don't trust the surface. Go to that place." I knew this was just the beginning. Grandpa Joe's funeral was held on a cold, rainy day in Missoula, the sky heavy with gray clouds, rain streaking the funeral home's windows like tears. The room was simple, an oak coffin surrounded by white lilies. I stood in a corner, wearing a too-tight black jacket Ellen found in my closet, my mind lost in memories of Grandpa's voice, his sharp eyes, his cryptic warnings. My family arrived in force, but not to grieve. Richard, my father, stood in the front row, his tailored suit immaculate, his face stern, masking impatience. Uncle Paul, in a silk tie, whispered to a man in a gray suit, their voices low and businesslike. My cousins, Ryan, Lauren, and Megan, clustered near the back, scrolling phones, their faces untouched by sorrow. To them, this was a formality, a checkbox before returning to their lives. Ellen stood beside me, holding my hand, her simple black dress a contrast to the family's flash. Her eyes were red but dry. She held back, unwilling to show weakness in the Hayes family. Clara sat by the coffin, clutching a handkerchief, staring at a faded photo of Grandpa in his youth, his smile rare and bright. I wondered if she knew his secrets, the place he'd mentioned. The service was brief. A pastor spoke of Grandpa as a humble man who loved his family. I wanted to shout that he was more, a man who taught me integrity, history, and courage, but I stayed silent. No one here cared for him like I did. Afterward, the family moved to a sleek restaurant overlooking the Clark Fork, its glass walls reflecting the river's gray shimmer. Laughter, clinking glasses, and talk of deals filled the air. No one spoke of Grandpa beyond platitudes. He went peacefully, didn't he? Or he was old, it was time. I sat at the table's end, eating cold chowder, listening to Ryan boast about his new Porsche, Lauren flaunting a Milan handbag, and Richard and Paul plotting a land deal. "That plot's a gold mine," Richard said, eyes gleaming. "Just need to grease some wheels at City Hall." Paul nodded, smirking. I wondered if they knew Grandpa's true life, his secrets. Clara stayed at the funeral home, needing solitude. Ellen convinced me to attend the reception. "It's for Joe," she said. I went, but all I wanted was to return to the cabin, sit by the fire, and feel Grandpa's presence. Days later, Grandpa's lawyer, Arthur Coleman, called for the will reading. Coleman was a lanky man in his 50s, with graying hair and wire-rimmed glasses. His voice measured, each word deliberate. The reading was in his Missoula office, a small room with oak shelves and a heavy table. The family gathered, their air not somber but greedy. Richard sat at the head, hands clasped, eyes sharp. Paul checked his watch, impatient. Ryan, Lauren, and Megan whispered, giggling like kids awaiting gifts. Ellen sat beside me, silent, hands tight in her lap. Clara wasn't there. She trusted Grandpa's choices. I felt out of place, expecting nothing. I knew Grandpa wasn't rich, not by my family's standards. Just the cabin, some land, his books. But I hoped for a sign, an answer to his cryptic words. Coleman read the will, his voice steady. Grandpa left small savings to Richard, Paul, and other relatives, keepsakes for my cousins. No one was satisfied. "That's it," Ryan muttered. Lauren pouted, arms crossed. Richard frowned. Paul shook his head. Then Coleman looked at me, adjusting his glasses. "To my grandson, Nathan Daniel Hayes. I leave property number 1219 and $15. The room froze, then erupted in laughter. Ryan pointed, cackling. "Property 1219? What's that? A pile of junk." Lauren giggled. $15. The old man had a sense of humor. Megan's sarcasm cut deep. Richard's eyes held contempt. Paul smirked, whispering to him. I sat, the ground slipping beneath me. I didn't care about money, but why something so trivial? Coleman nodded at me, his face unreadable. That's the will, he said. No further details. The family stood, chairs scraping. Ryan clapped my shoulder, laughing. Congrats, Nate. A shack and pocket change. Richard gave me a glance and left with Paul. Ellen squeezed my hand, silent. I left the office, rain soaking my jacket, Grandpa's words echoing, "Don't trust the surface." That night I drove to the cabin. Clara sat by the fire, knitting, her face soft in the glow. "Nate, it's late," she said, smiling faintly. I told her about the will, my voice heavy. "I don't care about money, Clara. But why Property 1219? $15? Feels meaningless." She stopped knitting, her hands on mine. "Your grandfather never did anything without purpose, Nate. If he chose you, there's a reason." She fetched a tarnished silver key from the bedroom, placing it in my hand. "Joe said the answers are in the old house. Go to 1219, Nate. You'll find what he wanted you to know." The key's weight sent a chill through me. "The old house?" I asked. She nodded, her eyes holding a secret. "Trust him, Nate. Trust yourself." I left, the key heavy in my pocket. The rain stopped, but the wind whispering through the cottonwoods. Grandpa had left a puzzle, and I had to solve it. My library job felt hollow, my mind on the key and $15 bill. I examined the bill, its serial number G1219M78421, nagging at me. Clara's words echoed, "The answers are there." I called her, asking about Property 1219. She paused. "Joe mentioned a place near the old logging road by the river. He kept important things there." I searched online, finding 1219, Riverbend Lane, a deserted address near the Clark Fork. My pulse raced. Was this Grandpa's place? I grabbed my backpack, tucked in the key and bill, and drove out. The road was narrow, overgrown with weeds, houses sparse. At 1219, I found a crumbling cabin, its roof sagging, windows shattered, walls peeling. A rusted "No Trespassing" sign hung loose. I parked, a chill creeping up my spine. Stepping over rotted boards, I tried the key in the door. It didn't fit. The door gave way with a push, creaking ominously. Inside, dust coated everything, broken furniture, cobwebs, a faint mold smell. I swept my phone's flashlight across the small living room, kitchen, and 2 bedrooms, tapping walls, lifting rugs, finding nothing. Dow Crepton, was this a dead end? I sat on a creaky chair, staring at the $15 bill's serial number, G1219M78421. The 1219 led me here, but what next? My heel caught a loose floorboard near the fireplace, making a hollow thud. I knelt, prying it up, revealing a metal hatch with a combination lock. My heart pounded. A hidden cellar in a house no one knew Grandpa owned. I entered 1219 into the lock. It clicked open. Trembling, I lifted the hatch, staring into darkness. My flashlight lit a narrow wooden staircase, the air cold and damp, smelling of earth and rust. "Grandpa, what am I doing?" I whispered, descending carefully, each step creaking. The cellar was small, concrete walls stained, a table in the center holding a safe, a metal box, and dusty papers. I tried 1219 on the safe, nothing. I checked the bill's serial number, entering 7842. The safe clicked open, my breath catching. Inside were documents tied with twine, a leather notebook, and a USB drive. Grandpa's handwriting filled the notebook, names, dates, coded symbols, maps of wartime Europe, notes on operations like Iron Veil and Night Cipher. One page read, London, June 12, 1944. Met her at Safe House. Intel secured. A photo showed a young grandpa in a suit beside a man in an OSS uniform, captioned, Operation Iron Veil, OSS. My head spun. Grandpa Joe, the man in a frayed sweater, was an OSS operative during World War II. The documents confirmed it, contracts stamped with government seals, titled Field Coordinator, European Theater, 1942 to 1946. Grandpa, codenamed Sparrow, ran a network of spies in France and Germany. My hands shook as I opened the metal box, finding a file labeled Richard and Paul Hayes. It detailed invoices, contracts, and Grandpa's notes, suspected money laundering via Clear Horizon Foundation, 2016 to 2022. Emails between Richard and Paul discussed offshore accounts and a plan to clean funds. A letter in Grandpa's hand read, "Nate, if you're reading this, you found the cellar. I'm sorry for this burden. I live two lives, one the family knew, one hidden. My sons, Richard and Paul, are laundering money through their charity. I couldn't turn them in, they're my boys. But I trust you to decide. The USB has my video explanation. If they can change, give them a chance. If not, do what's right. I'm proud of you. Joe. Tears fell, smudging the ink. Grandpa had carried this alone, torn between justice and love. Now it was mine. I climbed out of the cellar, the documents, notebook, and USB heavy in my backpack. The cabin at 1219, River Bend Lane was dark, the wind howling outside, but I felt changed. Grandpa wasn't just a storyteller, he was Sparrow, an OSS hero who shaped history, and he knew my father and uncle were criminals. His letter burned in my mind, do what's right. I needed to verify this. At the library, I saw Dr. Margaret Ellis, a World War II historian in her 60s, with white hair and sharp eyes behind round glasses. We talked about OSS missions before. I brought the notebook and a few photos, wrapped carefully with holding the family file. In her cluttered office, I laid them on her desk. Dr. Ellis, I found these in Grandpa's things. I think they're World War II related. She flipped through the notebook, her eyes widening. Where did you get this, Nate? I said they were Grandpa's, that he loved history and might have been involved in something big. She paused at a page of ciphers. This is OSS code, she murmured. These diagrams, the structure, it's high-level intelligence. She studied the 1944 photo of Grandpa in London. This mentions Operation Iron Veil. If your grandfather was Sparrow, he wasn't just involved, he likely ran a network. My heart raced. Are you sure? She nodded. These are internal OSS communications. I can verify through a contact at the National Archives, but if this is real, it's explosive. Be careful, Nate. Even declassified, this could draw attention. I left her office, her warning echoing, not everyone will be happy you have these. I knew confronting Richard and Paul was next. Their firm, Hayes Properties, was in a glass tower downtown. I went on a rainy afternoon carrying copies of the charity invoices and Grandpa's notes, leaving the USB safe at home. Richard sat at a conference table reviewing contracts. Paul was by the window on a call, his voice smooth. They looked up as I entered. Richard's stare cold. Nate, what's this? He snapped. You don't just show up. I took a breath. We need to talk about the company and Grandpa. Paul hung up, smirking. Grandpa? He left you $15 and a dump, right? He laughed. I laid the invoices on the table, pointing to Grandpa's note, suspected money laundering 2016. I found these in Grandpa's things, I said. They show your company's laundering money through Clear Horizon, faking contracts with city officials. Silence. Richard's face darkened. Paul grabbed the paper, skimmed it, and tossed it back. What's this nonsense? He growled. You're accusing us? I'm asking you to stop, I said, my voice steady. Grandpa knew for years. He didn't report you because you're his sons, but he left this to me. Make it right, or I will. Richard slammed the table, standing. You, a library clerk, dare lecture me? Your grandfather was a delusional old man, and you're pathetic. These are fake. They're not, I said, my voice rising. I have emails, transactions, more. Dissolve the charity, return the money, or I go public. Paul stepped closer, sneering. You're threatening us? We'll sue you for defamation, ruin your job, your life. Richard pointed at me. You'll destroy this family, Nate. Stop this. I met his eyes, feeling taller than ever. If you don't change, I'll expose the truth. Paul laughed, but his eyes were tense. You're nothing, Nate. I gathered the papers and left, rain soaking me as Richard shouted after me. Back home, I watched Grandpa's video. His voice was steady. Nate, if they won't stop, do what's right. I trust you. Tears fell as I called Coleman. I found evidence of my father and uncle's crimes. I need to get it to the authorities. He arranged a meeting. In his office, I shared everything, the cellar, Grandpa's OSS past, the evidence against Richard and Paul. If you do this, Coleman warned, your family won't forgive you. I nodded. Grandpa trusted me. I have to. He promised to contact a reporter and the DOJ. A week later, the Missoula Tribune ran, Hayes Properties accused of fraud, money laundering. The article cited anonymous documents detailing Clear Horizon schemes. The company's stock crashed, accounts were frozen, and police raided their offices. Ryan called, furious. You've ruined us, Nate. Lauren and Megan texted, calling me a traitor. Paul messaged, you'll pay. Ellen visited, eyes red. You did right, Nate, but it'll cost you. I nodded. It's what Grandpa wanted. The family cut me off, but I felt Grandpa's pride. Weeks later, Coleman called. There's more to the will. In his office, he revealed Grandpa's hidden estate. $150 million from wartime investments and tech shares. He left it to you, Coleman said, to fund education for underprivileged kids, with the rest for you to use wisely. I was stunned. Grandpa, in his frayed sweater, was a millionaire who lived simply. I established the Henry Hayes Education Fund, building schools and scholarships. I bought a Missoula building, creating a Hero's Secrets, an exhibit of Grandpa's OSS documents and photos, free to the public. Clara visited, her eyes bright at Grandpa's name on the sign. He'd be proud, she said. My family never forgave me. Richard and Paul faced trials, their empire gone. Ellen stayed in touch, torn but supportive. Standing before the exhibit, I knew I'd lost my family but gained a purpose. Grandpa taught me truth is worth fighting for. His legacy wasn't money or secrets. It was trust, integrity, and hope.